Oh, sorry about that. God, just one of those things, you watch a film and it inspires you to go out and buy stuff. In this case, lobby cards. Weird. But, anyway, hi. I'm Telecreations. In this video, I'm going to be doing something a bit different for Anatomy for Blu-ray. I'm actually going to be looking at Creature Feature, 60 Years of the Gill-Man, which is this. It is basically a fan-made documentary, done by, in this case, produced by Shadowplay Enterprises. And, talking about Creature from the Black Lagoon films, which is kind of cool as heck, because I love the Creature from the Black Lagoon. I'm one of the very many after seeing this, because this is a very short film. It's 74 minutes. It's I believe it's shorter than the actual runtime of the film itself. I figured, look, I bought it, I watched it. I haven't actually seen the sequels, which I find hilarious to me, but at the same time, it's the kind of documentary that, it'll touch on and mention the fact that there were sequels, and, show some stuff about the sequels and whatever, and what some people thought of them, and then it will move on. So, it still obviously spoils the films, realistically, but I kind of know what they're about anyway, so I don't really mind too much. But I kind of wanted to get a look at this, and I want to actually do an Anatomy of a Blu-ray, because I went through all the special features, I went through the whole entire thing, so let's kind of dive into it. This is going to be a different kind of style, because this time I'm actually talking about of all things, a fan documentary. This is similar in a way to In Search of Darkness, another recent documentary that's come out for that came out 2 years ago for 80s horror films and whatever, that I actually crowdsourced as well. This one initially was called 50 Years because it came out, it was initially made in 2003 and released in 2004, hence the 60 years was, in this case, 2015. Which is interesting. I guess maybe the 60-year period had come, 10 years later had come up, and they're like, hey, well, given how Ben Chapman had passed away, and there's, the internet's really, really big now, so we can, show off all these extra images of, stuff from behind the scenes, as well as, we can get footage from, the Abbott and Costello stuff and all this other crap. Plus there's Funko, so we can show more products that are being shown off for the creature. Put it all together, stitch in some new stuff. I don't know what the differences are. I can just imagine, because I saw pictures of the Funko versions of the creatures, and I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure they weren't around in 2003. But hey, this is basically just that documentary. If you've seen the documentary, you know exactly what you're going to get. It just has a bit of extra stuff, plus a post-credit scene. Weird to say that, just a little thing of Ben Chapman, who played the original creature, the land creature. Look, personally, if you want to get to know me a bit more, in the next room I have a signed poster from Rico Browning, as well as a lot of figurines from the creature. I love the film, and yet I only watched it for the first time, back in, I think 2016, but I'd known about the creature well before that, having never watched it, but then bought the Blu-ray, I'm like, oh my god, I love this movie. So, first up, packaging. It's very simple, slim case. I think mine was an import from the US. I got it on eBay for $45 or whatever. I think I had a voucher. Not too much fanciness on the spine, as you can see there in terms of the title. It's kind of, again, very similar to In Search of Darkness if you have something like that. But the artwork's not too bad. It does have a kind of cheap look to it in a way, but at the same time, fan-produced kind of stuff, I don't really mind. And there's that. Again, the Blu-ray, I initially took it out, and it's complete thick black. And I was concerned because it looked like it was peeling artwork around the sides, but it's just the way that it's made. But it works fine. I actually played it on my Region B player. It worked, nothing, no problem there. So it's obviously all regions, so anyone can watch it. Not rated, 74 minutes, Blu-ray disc. Yeah, and then you've got your back cover, which just obviously does some updating, having the picture of Ben Chapman. This is obviously pre Julie Adams passing away in 2019, and it just has gives you some details about the documentary and everything, and then you've got your extra details, including all the special features. So I'll actually cover the special features first, because I just went through all of those, and then I'll kind of briefly touch on the film. In this case, if you've seen the film, the documentary, you'll know basically most of these things as it is, but some of them are a bit weird. So one of them, the first thing which I found fantastic that is on it, is the Abbott and Costello Colgate Comedy Hour episode, which I had actually seen like a week and a half ago on YouTube because it's really easy to find. Really bad looking version because, of course, this is like done back in the mid-50s for TV. So unless you're like, I don't even know if people taped it. I don't know how. Like it's definitely a videotape recording that's been published on the internet. But that one I saw on the internet actually had a bit more detail at the start because it's like 15 minutes at the most. This one probably was about 12 minutes long, I'd say, because this one starts when Abbott and Costello are actually at the Universal Studios. But the joke here is that they open the Colgate Hour and they're talking to the audience, and then like, we're going to go and introduce this new creature that the Universal Universal has. And then they open the curtains and there's the set, and they're like, oh, we're here already. It's meant to be a joke. So this just cuts straight to them there and whatever. As a Creature from the Black Lagoon thing, because it's been advertised on DVD as, oh, by the Abbott and Costello meet the creature. It's not. It isn't. It's a promotional stunt. It's them in a room with all these wax figures and Costello, or I never remember which one's which. The big one, the one who gets scared of the ghosts. He gets scared of the Invisible Man that's been screwing with him, whatever. Then he gets chased around by Frankenstein, but then Frankenstein gets scared by the creature, kind of. I don't know, he kind of falls back into his coffin, and the creature bursts out, and, the guy's laughing, ha ha, I defeated Frankenstein, turns around, there's the creature there, and he's like, oh god, and he faints. So the creature's like there for like a minute, at best, but the whole point was people to be like, what the hell was that? I want to see what that is. And then they go and see the Creature from the Black Lagoon, now in cinemas, or in cinemas in a week's time. It was a good promotional stunt. So that's probably the best special feature that they have on here. Again, not great quality, but it's pretty funny. It's pretty cheesy, but They've got a Monsters HD interview with writer-producer Sam Borowski. He's the guy who wrote the documentary. And it's fine. It's basically just him explaining why he made the documentary. It's got 2 chapters to it. It's like, 4 to 5. I think it's like 10 to 15 minutes long, maybe 20 at the most. But it's basically all the stuff that's covered in it that he talks about is actually in the documentary, so you don't need to watch it. It's basically just him explaining why he made it and talking about the fans and being more of from a singular voice perspective in like a 15 to 20 minute thing, And I figure this is probably something he made in the mid-2000s as I made this documentary, this is why I made it, and I'm going to cover basically what we talked about in the documentary on this kind of like web show thing that he did. So 4:3 aspect ratio, clearly it's on a webcam. Well, not a webcam thing, but it's for a web show and whatever. It's fine though. I didn't watch most of it, I kind of skimmed through it, but yeah, he covers most of what's already in the documentary. There might be extra details in there, so if you really want more information, but it's mostly about why he made the documentary. Then you've got Creatures Cavalcade of Stars, which is kind of goofy. It's like 2.5 minutes of famous actors from like people from like Superman, from all these kind of random ass films. The guy from Hellraiser commenting on the Creature from the Black Lagoon and how memorable he is and all this kind of stuff. It's just a cute little thing. So that one I definitely think is worth checking out, just because it's just fun seeing all these actors talk about the creature. You're like, oh my god, these people know what the creature. It's great, Like the Hellraiser guy's like, if I got to go down to that Black Lagoon, that'd be a hell of a fight. So I'm like, it's just fun stuff. It's obviously all filmed at one convention that all these actors were at. I think Margot Kidder was there, so yeah, it's just a cute thing. It may have been filmed post this documentary coming out, so hence why it's a good special feature. Then you've got the John Goodwin Creature makeup demo, which is only like 2.5 minutes long, but it is actually featured in the documentary where they talk about him, how he's a makeup designer for like one of those like CSI shows or whatever. And he does this thing where he basically touches up a woman's face and turns her face into the creature. And we get snippets of it in the actual documentary, and then they show you the final result. But this one is the full clip, but it mostly just has music playing over the top of it once he gets started doing the makeup, because I guess he probably doesn't talk too much while he's doing it, so he can focus on what he's doing. So yeah, it's just a cute thing if you want to see the full clip, basically. The next two ones are completely irrelevant. It's the Then Came the Yawn vignette, which is like 7 minutes long, and it has nothing to do with the creature. It's meant to be this kind of jokey trailer saying like, oh, do you want scares? Do you want romance? Do you want this stuff? I don't know what the hell the point of it is. You can see it on YouTube and you can skim through it and realize I don't know what the hell it's from the 30s. I don't know why it's on this Blu-ray. It's really weird. And very unnecessary. Same as the next one, but the next one's like 1.5 minutes long, which is They All Laughed vignette. They are meant to be like joke trailers, where it's like there's a lot of text on the screen, a lot of wiping back and forth, and it's just like, did they play it during when the creature was on? I mean, he'd be popular enough that they wouldn't want to do that, so I don't know what the joke is. I don't know why it's there. They don't mention the documentary, so I don't know, just the guy who made this probably just wanted to put it on for fun, I can imagine. Then you've got the Robert Taylor fan interview, which is like 2 minutes long. I just kind of skipped that. I was like, I don't need that. It's just a guy talk. Like, it probably would have been fun. Maybe it's just an interesting thing that was cut from the documentary about a guy just talking about his experience watching the film or whatever. I'm like, look, good for you. If you want an extra person talking about it, cool. I don't really need that, but it is what it is. And the last one I do think is quite nice, which is the Bruce Tinkle collector interview, where he's talking about all these collector cards. It's just a fun little thing from him at one of the conventions, and it's just him just showing off all these lobby cards, which again I'm talking to this person about, and just like, oh, this stuff's worth thousands of dollars, and like it's signed by Ben Chapman and Julie Adams, and so it's like worth $6,000 to $10,000, and I'm like, yeah, it probably would be, especially in mint condition. So it's like, but still, for special features, it's not bad. I think it's great that it has the Colgate Hour episode, and it actually calls it that, not the Abbott and Costello Meet the Creature. The bullshit thing that Walmart's trying to sell you DVDs on. Bitch, it's 13 minutes and the creature's in it for a minute. It's a promotional stunt. It's not worth it. Watch it for free on YouTube. Talking about the film, though, the actual product, it's a good documentary. I like it. I think it's different to what I expected, mostly because it's kind of in 3 sections, where it firstly talks about the creation and concept of the creature and the film and all that, and then basically hiring the actors, then to them filming it, then it talks about the release, then it basically talks about the 2 sequels, very briefly, but enough, and then talks about, like, the fanfare and the rip-offs, and then kind of like the extended legacy of the creature, and that basically goes into talking about the collectors and the people who love collecting the stuff, and it goes into 2 different guys' sets, like, who both have like nicknames of Creature and Gill-Man and whatever, and I think Gill-Man and Gill-Boy, and it's cute. I actually really liked it because it's like immediately you look into these guys' collections and you're like, wow, this is like intimidating, because they just go through a few people's, like, oh, I've got this cool figurine, I got this statue and that kind of stuff, and then they go to these 2 dudes who like have these huge collections that are so old, and I'm watching the video and this is from 2003. I'm like, I've got that one, because I've got a bunch of like just a few like early 90s like Hasbro figures from the creature and like some sideshow stuff, and I'm like, I've got that one, I know what that is, I know what that soft toy is, I've seen it before. Like, this shit pops up on my eBay all the time, and yet I don't buy half of it. I like to buy creature stuff that looks, where the head sculpt looks basically identical to the creature. I'm not too dramatic of a fan to go into buying everything, otherwise I wouldn't have any money or any room. So that's my like discrepancy, so I can just hold on to some cash. But it was really cool looking at that kind of stuff, especially of recent for me, looking into more collectors. I've joined some Facebook groups, and there's such welcoming people, so it's like, it's cool to see that, and like, I'm not intimidated, because I'm like, oh my god, this shit's cool, like, that guy's got all this stuff. And then they're like, oh, then we're going to go into the conventions, and there's like the 50th anniversary convention. They've got like 3-4 different conventions that they went to, ending at Creature Con or Creature Fest, whatever it was called, and I think it was Creature Fest. And that one was actually at the location where it was filmed, and then all of them were there. Like Julie Adams was there, Ben Chapman was there. You even had what's her name there? the stunt actress, who is one of the last two remaining actors from the film, was there as well, because she lives there, which I thought was really cool. And they had Rico Browning show up. He was like hardly in the documentary. He's basically mentioned in the start of it, and then basically like, oh, this is how he got to there and how he became the creature. And then they show him at the end where it's like the reunion, like he hadn't seen Ben Chapman in 50 years and all this kind of stuff. So it's cute, but it's more of the fanfare of, oh, look, they're together, which I think was great that they filmed that. That's a wonderful thing. But the fact that Rico was hardly in it, like even Julie Adams was in it, but she hardly talks about the film. She mostly just talks about being with the fans and everything, which I'm like, I feel like they could have had her talking more about the film. Ben Chapman talked about the film. He talked about him getting hired, and then he never talked about being on the film. Like, no one talked about what it was like actually filming it, which is interesting. And kind of, if I would add anything to the film, it would have been having those original three actors, both, Julie Adams and Rico Browning and Ben Chapman, talk about what it was like actually on set and whatever. Like, I feel like that could have been fun. What it would have been like to be in the creature suit, get some more, anecdotal stuff. An extra 10 to 15 minutes of that would have made the documentary, like, make it a 90-minute documentary and have that kind of stuff, or 80 to 5 minutes. I mean, this is already 74, so yeah, make it 90 minutes long, have, 15 minutes of them talking about their experiences in the movie. It would have been great. I would have definitely given it, like, 4 to 5 stars from that. I'd be like, yeah, perfect. Like, I don't need a huge in-depth, detailing, because, like, a lot of the Blu-ray and DVD sets for the legacy stuff have a lot of bonus features and documentaries about, especially the 100 years of Universal. They did a whole bunch of reprints for the monster films, because, that's what they made. It was a huge staple in Universal, and they're like, oh, we're going to do, like, all these in-depth documentaries, and I've watched most of them. I watched most of them on the Blu-rays and the DVD sets when I first watched the films, and it was insane to watch them. I loved it. I think that's why I still love the monsters to today. Like, I grew up with them, but then I rewatched them in my late teens, like 2016, 2017 period. I think it was 2017. I had like the winter break after my first year of uni, and it was just like, by winter I mean like June, the middle of the year. So winter in Australia, and we had winter break. So it was like 6 weeks, and I just sat down and like watched a whole bunch of Universal monster films, including a bunch of sequels and spin-offs. I think I did a bunch of reviews for the Telecreations channel, for this channel. So that was like my original reviews videos, was about those. I don't know if I actually did touch on the Creature from the Black Lagoon, because I ended up buying that and like The Invisible Man and The Bride of Frankenstein on Blu-ray, though I already had The Bride of Frankenstein on DVD. It was just like a budget get one free horror. But like, it was just fun, and now I have like the Legacy set for Creature, and I'm getting the Universal Legacy set, which has every single, like, the majority of the Universal Monsters films. There's like 30-odd films, I think, in that set, so that's really nice, plus the 4Ks that I've got. Wowza. But it's like, I know that those sets have a lot of those documentaries, and they do dive into it a lot, which I even mentioned in my like Letterboxd reviews. Like, if I want to really deep in dive stuff, I go to that. I've even got on Amazon, they've got these screenplays for a lot of Universal monster movies and whatever. So I bought Hold That Ghost because it was $11, and for like $30, I got the Creature from the Black Lagoon one, which, like, it starts with like all this background about the film, and then you have the whole script, and then you got all this promotional material about the movie, which is like really cool to see. So that's really fun. And like, that's kind of like an equivalent of this, but this is talking first half about the film, second half about like the fans. But it also has interviews in between, like talking to like Benicio del Toro and a whole bunch of different people about the film. And I really like that. It has some great interviews, and Ben Chapman's talking about a bunch of stuff. Marilyn Monroe part was great. Like, I loved how they talked about that kind of stuff. So, content-wise, the film is pretty good. It's great for a fan, especially. Like, if you're a fan of if you want a documentary about the movie or about just the trilogy, this isn't the one you're looking for. If you want a documentary that's like as a celebration as a fan, because again, 60 years of Gill-Man, it's kind of implication there is it's about the fans. This is worth your money. In terms of it being filmed and everything, I'd say it's like camcorder stuff mostly. It still looks pretty nice on Blu-ray, but it's 4x3 stuff. It's the classic kind of when we're going to cut to a widescreen image from a film, it's still going to be letterbox top and bottom, but also on the sides because it's in 4x3. It's made for 4x3. So despite it being a 2015 re-release, it's still like that, which is a bit disappointing, but at the same time, it's the limitations of the tech that they had at the time. And to be fair, better they filmed it for the 50th anniversary than 60th, because by that stage, again, Ben Chapman had obviously passed away, and we're approaching 70 years of the creature, and by 70 years, I'd imagine there won't be many people. I don't think any of them will be alive still, which will be a very sad day for when I find out that Rico Browning has passed away. That's why I'm happy I got that poster, because he was in bad health last year, as it was. So, yeah. But that inspired me to get the poster. It was already pre-signed and whatever, but you can't really get personalized autographs anyway, so I'm like, that's alright. It's a cool poster. But yeah, in terms of like audio visual, it's your standard kind of stuff. It looks fine for what it is. Like, it doesn't look really dodgy. There are some images that it's like, clearly these were like taken off of like bad websites where it's like 240p or whatever, and it's like not great pixelation, and like, I don't need this. It also has the classics of, here's a bunch of pictures and we're gonna like be zooming away from them or zooming into them, and there's a classic picture from the creature where he's like doing this weird pose and whatever, and they only show the top half of it as they're slowly zooming out, so it's like, it's very like that, but again, it feels like a fan documentary made for the fans, by the fans kind of deal, which I would completely get behind. For the style of what it is, I can understand. Like, the fact that they even had Benicio del Toro in it, and even narrated by, of all people, Keith Bloody David, who actually produced it as well, I think that's really cool. So, and having all the special features, like, it's good stuff. I definitely recommend it as a creature fan. I don't expect anyone else to really watch this video, so yeah, but as an overall, I think it's a really nice documentary, talking about the creature, talking about the fans, like reappreciating it from the fans to the people who were in it, both the guy who wrote it, who's also in the film, which is great. I think Arthur Ross, yeah. So there's, they're sitting with him, talk with him about it, which is nice. And yeah, so it's a good documentary. I like still how it, teaches you some extra stuff, like, oh, just in case you don't know about Millicent Patrick, she's really important, There's like all this stuff to it that's, I think, really, really appropriate. Again, if it was about the fans completely, I don't think it'll be as interesting of a documentary. I think because it starts off talking about the creation of the film and and then moving on to its legacy and then its bigger legacy, I think it works well. I think it's a good summation of creature culture. So yeah, as an overall, I would definitely recommend it if you can get it. I got it on eBay. It's not very hard to get it. It's very slim packaging, so it's not hard. It's very commendable. I like how even the post-credit part commemorating, Ben Chapman as a, hey, since making the original version of the documentary, the re-release now, Ben's passed away, so we wanted to commemorate that and whatever. So I just thought that was cute and really well respective. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. Outside of that, that's all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Anatomy of a Blu-ray, where I'll probably actually do a film. I don't know, I just figured this will be a cool documentary to talk about in a way. So yeah, see you next time. Adios.